never forget that interview. Auntie Na was live on air, and the whole studio was cold and tense, like something terrible was about to happen. The lady on the show, her name was Amma, and she looked so scared. She was pregnant, maybe 6 or 7 months along, but her face was pale and her hands shook as she held onto her belly. Auntie Na started off softly, asking about how Amma and her boyfriend met, how they fell in love. Amma smiled a bit when she talked about him. But then Auntie Na asked, "So, why is his family rejecting you?" That's when Amma's eyes started to water, and she took a deep breath before speaking. Amma said she got pregnant, and when she told her boyfriend's family, everything changed. They didn't care about the baby. They just wanted her gone. Amma explained how she went to their house trying to make peace, and the mother just looked at her, cold and harsh, and said, "You'll never be part of this family. You are nothing but a curse." Everyone in the studio was quiet. You could hear a pin drop. I was just there, helping with the cameras, but I felt like I couldn't breathe. The way Amma described it, it was like she wasn't talking about real people, but about something evil, like they were a dark shadow waiting to swallow her whole. Auntie Na kept pressing, asking if she thought they would change their minds. Amma shook her head, and her voice cracked as she said, "They won't. They told me if I ever tried to come back, I would regret it." Her eyes darted around like she was scared someone would show up and drag her away. She told us about the last time she saw her boyfriend. He seemed confused, almost lost. She said he told her he didn't want to go against his family, but he also didn't want to abandon her. Then, Amma whispered, "He said he hears them at night, like they're whispering to him, telling him to leave me, like it's not his own voice anymore." The scariest part was when Auntie Na asked if she had heard anything else strange, and Amma said she'd been having nightmares, the same one over and over. In the dream, she's standing outside the boyfriend's family house, but it's dark and the door is slightly open. She hears a baby crying inside, but when she steps closer, she sees shadows moving behind the door. And then she wakes up, always at the same moment, just before she steps inside. Amma started crying, and Auntie Na reached out to hold her hand, but Amma pulled back like she was afraid to be touched. She said she didn't want to sleep anymore because every time she closed her eyes, she felt like something was reaching for her, trying to pull her into that house. By the end of the interview, everyone looked shaken. Auntie Na tried to wrap things up nicely, saying something about love and courage. But you could tell she didn't believe it herself. I still think about Emma, and I don't know what happened to her after that. Sometimes I wonder if she ever went back to that house, and if those whispers finally got to her too. That night I was at home flipping through channels when I stumbled upon Auntie Na's show. It was late, and I usually didn't watch it, but something about the way the camera zoomed in on Amma's face made me stop. She looked scared, really scared, and her hands kept trembling as she cradled her belly. Auntie Na started off like she always did, with a warm smile and a gentle voice. She asked Amma to share her story, and Amma started talking about how she met her boyfriend. It sounded like any normal love story. They met at a friend's wedding, danced together, and soon they were inseparable. Amma's eyes lit up for a moment when she talked about those early days, and I thought maybe the interview wasn't going to be as heavy as I expected. But then Auntie Na's tone changed, and she asked, "So what happened when you got pregnant?" Amma's smile faded, and her lips trembled. She said she was so happy when she found out she was expecting. She thought her boyfriend would be too, and he was at first. But when he told his family, everything changed. Amma's voice got shaky as she described the first time she went to meet his family after they found out she was pregnant. She had brought gifts wrapped in bright colours, like it was a celebration. But when she got there, the atmosphere was cold. His mother wouldn't even look at her, and his father just kept staring at the floor. Finally, the mother spoke, and her words were sharp and cruel. "We don't want you here. You'll never be part of this family. You're a curse." The room felt like it got colder as Amma spoke. Even through the TV screen, I could feel the chill. Auntie Na asked if she tried to speak with them again, and Amma nodded. She said she went back, hoping things would be different, but they only got worse. The mother told her to leave and warned her that if she ever came back, She would regret it. Arma's boyfriend started acting strange after that. At first, he told her he would stand by her, that he would make his family understand, but then he started to pull away, making excuses to not see her. One night, when they met up, he was distant, his eyes red like he hadn't slept in days. He told her he was hearing things, whispers that wouldn't stop, telling him to leave her, to forget about the baby. "They're in my head," he said. "I don't know what to do." The camera zoomed in on Arma's face, and she looked like she was about to cry. Auntie Na asked her if she thought his family was behind it, and Arma just stared down at her hands. "I don't know," she whispered. "But every time I close my eyes, I see that house. It's dark and there's a baby crying inside. I try to go in, but I can't. There's something there, something waiting for me." Auntie Na's face softened, and she tried to comfort Arma. But there was a tension in the air that no words could break. Arma went on to say that she started having the same nightmare, over and over. She would stand outside the house, the door slightly open, and she could hear the faint sound of a baby crying. But every time she tried to step closer, dark shadows would move inside, blocking her way. It was as if the house was alive, keeping her out, and she would wake up right before she stepped inside, drenched in sweat, her heart pounding. She said she hadn't slept properly in weeks because every time she did, she felt like something was trying to pull her into that house, like it wanted her there, wanted to trap her. She didn't want to believe in curses or spirits, but the more she thought about it, the more she felt like there was something dark at play, something she couldn't escape. The scariest part was when Auntie Na asked if she had heard from her boyfriend recently, and Arma said she hadn't. He had stopped responding to her calls, and his friends wouldn't tell her where he was. She was scared he had gone back to that house, back to his family, and that whatever was whispering to him had finally gotten him. "I'm afraid," she said, her voice barely a whisper. "I'm afraid of what will happen if I go back there. But I'm more afraid of what will happen if I don't." When the interview ended, I felt like I'd just woken up from a bad dream. The studio lights dimmed and Auntie Na tried to end the show on a positive note, saying something about hope and perseverance, but it didn't feel right. It felt forced, like even she didn't believe her own words. I kept thinking about Arma for days after that. I couldn't shake the feeling that something terrible was going to happen, that the story wasn't over. And then, about a week later, I heard rumours that Arma had gone missing. Some said she had been seen heading towards that house, the one from her nightmares. Others said she had been taken there against her will. No one knows for sure what happened, but sometimes late at night, I think I can still hear her voice, soft and scared, whispering for help. And I wonder if she's still out there, trapped in that dark place, with no way out.
Thank you for watching. Please subscribe, share, like, and comment. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe, share, like, and comment.